Well, if ever a game summed up a pre-season friendly, it was this one. Diego Carlos sees red as Villa lose in New Jersey. This is your match reaction to RB Leipzig 2, Aston Villa nil. Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with a match reaction to RB Leipzig 2, Aston Villa nil. Yes, second pre-season friendly in the USA, and Villa have lost again. Not too much drama to write home about. We did have a sending off, but not many chances for both teams. But we're going to take a look into it and see whether there's more questions and answers, or see whether it did turn into a bit more of a useful exercise for Aston Villa and Unai Emery. Before we do, though, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and help us on the road to 4,500 subscribers. And we want to hit 5K ideally before the start of the season, so you can help us do it. Like, subscribe, and get your comments, thoughts on the game, and where we potentially need to strengthen this team. So, team started off with Robin Olsen in goal, Matty Cash at right back, Diego Carlos and Pau Torres at centre back, Luca Dean at left back, and then a midfield partnership of Amadou Onana and Ross Barkley in midfield, with John McGinn in front of those two players, and then Illing Jr. on the left, Bailey operating on the right as usual, and Morgan Rogers this time as the lone striker. Now, starting off the game, there wasn't too much in it. There was Villa trying to pass it across the back again and trying to build those relationships to break out from the back, but it was still a little bit hit and miss, not the greatest in terms of our passing intent, and couldn't really get the likes of Leon Bailey, Ealing Jr. and Morgan Rogers on the ball. And John McGinn, I think it probably took him about 10 to 15 minutes to have his first touch. It was very difficult for us to get that ball out and moving. And I think there will be some work done, particularly with Ross Barkley, on how to receive the ball and how to move it that little bit more quickly to release us on the attack, because we were getting bogged down with it in those defensive areas and really struggling against quite a good, all well organised side. Obviously, RB Leipzig, Champions League level team, got some excellent players, and they're very fast as well. And they were quick to close us down and really did dominate possession. And again, it was a defensive mistake, giving the ball away that led to the opening goal by Andre Silva. They had just had an attack down the left-hand side, and a cross came in, I think from a Penda, and it got deflected by Diego Carlos into the hands of Robin Olsen, and you're just thinking, oh, that's absolutely fine. He's going to play it out, and all of a sudden the camera pans back, and RB Leipzig have put the ball in the net. And when the replay shows, it was a little bit of a forced pass by Robin Olsen. Ross Barkley was caught on his heels a little bit, and Haidara tackled him. Maybe it was a foul. You could maybe say it was a foul. Went through and just played the ball across, square pass to Andre Silva, who just tapped it into the net. Robin Olsen actually did get injured in the meantime, in the melee of that, took a real blow to the face, and he, in the end, had to go off, had to leave the pitch. But yeah, it was a bit of a mess, that goal. And as I say, we've seen this happen a couple of times in the last game, two or three real errors of judgment, real bad passes, sloppy passes, and just not being on their toes for that first touch. And yes, you can put it down to not necessarily being match sharp, not necessarily knowing where to be and what position, and trying to integrate a lot of new players. But also there is an element of sloppiness now, and players should be just getting that little bit sharper and just being on their toes a little bit more to receive the ball, or that communication to tell someone when you're going to pass it to them and have they got a man on. So that's the area where I'll be slightly disappointed in that. And then after that, we again didn't really threaten too much. I think Morgan Rogers had an opportunity that where some good play ended up with Luca Dean down the left hand side, slotted it into Morgan Rogers, and he had a bit of a cross shot, and it took a deflection and went over the bar. But it was Leipzig that went 2-0 up. Again, sloppy play, and ball goes out onto their left-hand side. We didn't close down the cross. Cross comes in, and Openda has two bites at the cherry, has quite a deft touch for his first attempt at a finish, and it's saved by the goalkeeper, and then he manages to bundle it in. But that wasn't the last of it. He had some words with Diego Carlos prior to this, where he received a yellow card, scored, got into Diego Carlos's face. Diego Carlos reacted, pushed him to the floor. Obviously, Openda makes a meal of it, but Diego Carlos gets sent off, and we've got down to 10 men towards the end of the first half. So it is completely backs against the wall from there, and it becomes more of a training exercise of 11v10. And that's what transpired into the second half, and Aston Villa couldn't get out at all. And we just had to keep well organised, and we saw Amadou Onana drop into central defence for the rest of that first half and some of the second half. We saw Philogene come on. We saw Jacob Ramsey come on, which was a real positive to see him back onto the pitch. Emi Buendia came on, and he played in that false nine or central attacking position. And Ian Matson came on, and then more changes happened across the second half. But what I thought was quite useful in that exercise was you turn that situation into a training situation of, can you keep at bay a what is in essence a Champions League side? Can you stop them from scoring? And while we didn't have any attacking threat whatsoever, I saw the Aston Villa supporters that were in the stadium cheering that we managed to get a corner with about 10 minutes to go. But can you keep that side at bay and not allow them to score? And we did stay very well organised. We did limit them to maybe one or two chances. There was a chance for Benjamin Sesko right at the end of the game. But apart from that, Oliver Zic didn't really have too much to do. And there was very, very few chances in the whole game for Leipzig as well as Aston Villa. So I think that turned into quite a good exercise in terms of organising as a defensive unit, making sure players were getting back into position, closing the space down, and then trying to do anything in terms of some passing movements, working their way out. Now, this is the area where I think we really need to improve, and this is the same in both halves. Illing Jr. really does need some work on where he needs to be, and then when he receives the ball, just getting into position to be able to control it properly and be able to move the ball effectively. A couple of times he got the ball in some quite decent areas and just gave the ball away straight away. And he wasn't the only one, but when we're looking for someone to be an attacking threat, he's got to be able to show that, and he's got to be able to be a little bit more sharp. Now, we know that defensively, you can organise yourself, you can set yourself up to shut down positioning quite easily. It's when you have to try and break a team down, and that's where it becomes more difficult in terms of those passing movements and the combinations and everything like that. And that's where I think we really do need to see some improvement and need to see some sharpness. And I'm sure it will come, but I do see some holes in that attacking threat. I mean, we obviously heavily reliant on Ollie Watkins. Leon Bailey needs to improve that match sharpness. A couple of times he got through and didn't take the shot when he maybe could have done. Cameron Archer wasn't used at all yesterday. Now, that could be just to do with rotation and trying different things, which I'm sure it is. But we don't have a backup striker or a competing striker for Ollie Watkins as it stands at the moment, really. And then I'm still concerned, although, like I say, in that second half, we were pretty well organised. Amadou Onana doing really well at central defence, but we've seen him drop into central defence. We've seen Dendoncker come on at central defence, and we saw Luca Digne play at central defence in the last game. That really does concern me that we don't have that cover in that central defensive area, because I'm not 100% on Diego Carlos at the moment. So these are areas that I think we need to improve, and I'm sure we will. And I'm sure we will over the course of the pre-season. We've got one more game in America against Club America on Saturday, and I'm sure there'll be an improved performance there. And as I said in my last video, it's all mainly about the training and what they're putting into the training sessions. And John McGinn has already said that they're very high intensity. So when they come into the games, they're only really capable of lasting that 60-minute, 65-minute mark at this moment in time. What I want to see, though, is better control, more urgency on the ball, more kind of momentum moving forwards with the ball, because that's where we haven't really seen that in those last two games. We haven't created enough chances. We haven't taken enough opportunities to move the ball forwards. We haven't seemed to want to get the ball into the box when we've been in an opportunity to do that. So I want to see those combinations coming through and us being a little bit more of a threat going forward, because other teams, they're not going to be set up at the back as well as they might be at the start of the season. So why don't we take advantage of it? And that obviously breeds momentum. That obviously breeds confidence in the players. So that's what I'd like to see. But in terms of the training exercise, 10 versus 11, I think that was useful. It was a forgettable preseason friendly, in all honesty, but this is what they all are. So yeah, hopefully moving on to the final game, we can maybe see one or two other players getting that sharpness up, and one or two other players maybe getting on the score sheet and giving those American fans something to cheer about on this tour. I'll be back with probably a match preview and a roundup of all the transfer activity and the rumours over the next couple of days. I do have a show coming up tonight with Chad on his podcast, so please look out for that one. And I will be back with Academy AVFC to do a roundup of the Villa Academy and what's happening with the youth players at Aston Villa. So do look out for that on the channel very soon. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, get your comments in below. Thank you for watching, and as always, remember, we'll follow the Villa.